Hello guys, Elita Legionarii here. Today I'm bringing you a 2vs2 31k for Rome Total War, and today I'm actually going to be using Britannia, a faction that is usually quite difficult to use in 31k, but if pulled off correctly, the results are very rewarding indeed. So this is a 2v2. I'm playing with Heaven's Biscuits, my good mate and fellow YouTuber, so I'll link his channel in the description of course. And our opponents are Heaven's Polish Legion. He has a channel also, so I'll be linking that. And of course Mohammed from the Heaven clan, he's playing as Macedon. Polish took the Senate, and of course Biscuits took the Scipii. So now ordinarily you wouldn't be using Britannia in a 2v2. Quite difficult to use in a 2v2, and basically quite difficult to use in any 31k really. But you'd want to be using it more in a 3 versus 3, or probably preferably a 4 versus 4 over any other type of 31k battle. So I'm just going to pause it now while I outline a few little things about how this battle was kind of thought out by me and Biscuits, and our builds and our opponent's builds and that kind of thing. So the most typical build in my opinion, or one of the most typical builds for Britannia, would be 4 chosen swordsmen just for the war cry and maybe just a little bit of infantry support for your ally. It's really, I mean, infantry wise Britannia's not got anything that's going to be any good for 31k really, but maybe just a little bit to help your ally hold, because the job of Biscuits in this fight is to be mostly infantry holding forces and stuff like that. He's going to be doing most of the infantry groundwork, and I've got to try and get a chain route and scare my opponents to keep the momentum alive. So I've also got 10 head hurlers. Head hurlers are one of the keys to Britannia. You need to try and mass rout the opponent through fear, and the head hurlers are one of the best ways to do that. So 10 of these with high attacking upgrades and experience upgrades is what you go for. Then I have, ordinarily when we tried playing, it didn't go through. We tried doing a game before this, and I had 6 units of these barbarian warlord chariots. And they maxed out. This is a very good chariot unit, and it will do a really nice job if we used properly. But I originally changed 2 of them out for the British light chariot, which I've maxed out as well. This is because I want some skirmish, because if we look at the Macedonian forces, he's got 5 Cretan archers, and I have a massive weakness to archers, both in my chariots and in my head hurlers. So Biscuits has brought 3 archer auxilia, and I've brought 2 of these British light chariots. So that should, if we use them right, should mean that we can nullify the Cretan archers. And if they don't have any archers, they've got no way of harming the head hurlers, and then we can use them uninterrupted, which is basically what we're going for. So I'm bringing out my light chariots onto the right. If we look at Biscuits' army, he's got those 3 archer auxilia and the 4 Praetorian cav. He's got 1 legionary first, and the rest are urban cohorts. And then if we look at Polish Legion, now what they've done is they've fused their army into one big group. This is most likely just because a chariot rush will not work against them with the Macedonian pikes in here. So Mo has the 5 Cretan archers. I believe he has 6 units of companion cav, so that leaves 11 pikemen, I think. And then for Polish Legion, he's got 6 Praetorian cav, 1 legionary first, I think, or is that an urban? No, it's just an urban. Okay, so he has legionary first up here, and then the rest will be urban cohorts. Now they've fused their armies together like this, and that's to stop a chariot rush or anything like that. But what happens in this fight is the entire game, Polish Legion and Mohammed are reacting to every single move that me and Biscuits make. So basically the entirety of the game, which basically means me and Biscuits were dictating where the battle was taking and what the timing was, which is good. So at the moment all we're wanting to do is try and take out Mo's archers so that he can't use them to get at my head hurlers, which we need. So I'm keeping my head hurlers back for as long as I can. I'm just trying to sit them in the back of Biscuits' formation. Not too close, because if a cav charge comes through they'll rout, but just back enough so they're in support. So I bring up my chariot archers, and we're going to start shooting at Mo's archers here. I'm also going to bring up my chariots here to cover my archers, and Biscuits is going to move his cav out to the left just to have cav support here. I was surprised they didn't just attack. If I was them, I would probably have just attacked and used while my chariots were over here like this, if they were quick, they might have been able to cause a rout among my head hurlers if they charged through. And if they got rid of my head hurlers, there's a good chance that my chariots wouldn't have enough momentum to destroy their cavalry, because there is plenty of it. And there is a method to stopping chariots, which I'm pretty sure Mo's employing right now. He's packing his guys tightly together, as you can see, and he's putting them into guard mode, which will stop my chariots from being able to destroy them. So anyways, you can see they're constantly reacting. So we were trying to move out to the left, just trying to split them up or get onto the flank. So that's what we're doing here, as you can see. Because they'll put their cav closer to this side, Biscuits is bringing his cav this way as well. But as you can see, we are skirmishing well. This unit of Cretans down to 31, this one's down to the 40s. These ones are all taking hits, and they're not targeting my head hurlers, which is fantastic, because if we lose the head hurlers, we're going to be in trouble. So Biscuits obviously put a few peeler into these pikemen here, so that's good. Thin them out, but as you can see, they're reacting to all our moves. They're playing defensively, and there's nothing wrong with playing defensively, but they're not playing. It's not like a proactive counter defense, it's just a reactionary for defense, basically. Basically what I mean by that is, if you don't understand what I mean, is they're doing, me and Biscuits will do something and then they're copying it to counter it or to match it, so they're reacting. They're not actually using a defense where they're suddenly, like, they might do something defensive but then they might counter somewhere else to try and put me and Biscuits off edge. So that leaves us with the advantage. So I think when you're a defensive player, what you really need to be doing is being a counteractive defensive player, where you're countering the attacker's move but still remaining defensive. You don't want to be a defensive player who's just copying the moves of your opponent to try and stay it all lined up, try and keep up with them, because otherwise they're dictating all the placements on the field, which is exactly what me and Biscuits are doing right now. Because these two are just, as you can see, every time we move, they move with us. They're not making any proactive moves in any way to try and catch me and Biscuits off balance, which means basically we're having it all our own way, which is exactly what we need. Because in a 2v2 they do have the advantage, and in this scenario of a 2v2 they have the advantage here, because Britannia is difficult to use in a 2v2 and it puts a lot of pressure on Biscuits' infantry. But as you can see, we have mopped up the vast majority of Mo's archers. A few of his guys have mingled into, a couple of them are in pretty good numbers that have mingled into the troops. So what we decide to do here is we start targeting the backs of units. Their backs is tuned, as you see, so this urban's down to 68, and some of these other urbans start taking hits and things. We're just going to turn them around like this. As you can see, I'm just skirmishing away here. At this stage, I believe I told Biscuits to send his cav back to the left, because as you can see, we're far away from cav support. And I want to try and put my chariots here, so if they were to rush here and Biscuits' cavs are around here, they won't rush his cav, I can come from the flank with my chariots. So Biscuits needs to get his cav back out over to the army, so I do believe I tell him to do that in a moment, because as you can see, there's nothing much over there and they have a quick opportunity. Again, if they were playing a good defensive move, they could have done some counters here just to force us to retreat. And they're then taking up a defensive role yet again. But this is what they've been. They're reactionary. They're not counter-defensive. They're not countering our moves. So I think they had an opportunity just now where Biscuits' cab was over here, my chariots in the back here. They could have just done a couple of quick strikes, maybe just shot around the flanks, done a bit of damage and stuff. They were really a little too static. That played for into our advantage. So we're going to start targeting Polish Legion's general, because its back is turned. So that's what we're going to do. As you can see, some of these guys are down. This one's down to 63, down to 75. Let's see, some of these guys down to 60, 70. So I mean, all these little urban units are getting knocked down a bit. So Biscuits is bringing his guys back, and I'm just going to keep pushing my chariots around so that they are ready to come and help. We're just going to keep skirmishing, because we can do this. We can just, the longer they play defensively like this and do nothing, it actually plays into the strengths of myself and Biscuits. So we're in no hurry to do anything. And basically what we were aiming to do at this point was just keep going with the skirmish and just wait until they either got impatient or panicked because they were losing too much and they reacted to us. That's basically what we were doing. So Polish Legion is still under missile fire. And he was typing messages like out in full chat that everyone could see in this fight, and you could tell he was finding it the pressure a bit much, like the pressure he wasn't sure what to do here. I don't think, because I really think that the biggest key here is they should have. It's not as good now, but when Biscuits had his cav over here, they had an opportunity to use their cav to disrupt Biscuits and possibly get my head hurlers. Had they done that, they could have pushed forward with their infantry. And although I would have brought my chariots in, they possibly would have lost quite a lot of their cav. I think they would have done enough damage to their infantry and stuff that the rest of their infantry would have finished the work off. So at this stage, seeing as the cav is over there and there's not many missiles left, I decide to pull my head hurlers off to the side here so that I can throw them into the flank, basically. Now it's around here that we start going for Polish Legion's General. As you can see, it's down to 62, and he doesn't recognise this for quite a while actually. So we get down to the 40s before he really decides to turn it around and move it out of archer range, because we've got them encircled here, and archer fire in the flank, and units pinning them on the front. And really, I mean, they got themselves into this situation, in my opinion. They could have gotten out of this if they'd just been more proactive with that cavalry when the opportunity was there. Could have forced me and Biscuits to go into the defensive. There's nothing wrong with defensive play, as I said, but if your defensive play is completely based on reacting to everything your opponent's doing instead of trying to be counteractive and try and force them to change their attack pattern, then the advantage will always lie with the team that's attacking, which is me and Biscuits at the moment. So we were going to go for the first cohort as well, but he puts that into Testudo, but we have got it down to 94, so we've taken about 30 men out of that one, and we've split his general unit in half. This is great. His two highest morale units, if they're already depleted before the battle's even begun, or the major battle's begun, that's going to play into our strengths. So at this stage, both Biscuits and Polish Legion are just getting chopped up by missile fire. And they're just losing numbers, and the longer this draws out, the higher and higher the chances for myself and Biscuits to succeed becomes. So they need to do something soon, or they're just not going to have enough left. In fact, I would go so far as to say they've probably left it perhaps a bit late already. They've just lost too many infantry and too many units, particularly among the Romans. In a moment, I think either Mo's patience or Polish Legion's patience snaps. As you can see, Polish Legion's trying to strike here. I just told Biscuits to retreat this unit back if these units are back. He doesn't need the peeler screens at the moment. There's no peeler being thrown at him. He doesn't really need them. So he can just bring them into tight, hold them in there. He's fine. At this stage, again, just more flank fire. You see some of these urbans down to the 40s, 60s. The pikes are down into the 40s. They're really losing numbers here to these all this missile fire coming in from the flank from my chariots and his archer auxiliary. So in a moment, I believe it's Mo. He probably just realises that they've gone too far. They left it too long, and he just pulls off his pikemen in the hopes he can catch my head hurlers here, which have taken a little bit of archer fire, but nowhere near enough to make them ineffectual. So here we see Polish Legion pushes forward. He probably got a little hasty here. So I allow these two head hurlers to start throwing heads into their flank, which is already the drop to shaken just because the head hurlers do massive morale damage. And Biscuits is going to send one cav through, and that's going to be enough to rout the whole horde, I think. 1 and 2, and yep, so I think he got pretty hasty there and just went too soon, and of course Mo decides to just go in there as well. So I just start pumping head hurlers into these raw pikemen, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this group off to this side and this group off to this side, so that no matter what angle he's at, I'll be hitting him with some heads. And head hurlers are just devastating to pikemen. Only Spartans and Sacred Band, which they have the biggest shield and armoured defence, have really much hope against them. Raw pikemen can hold them off for a while, but they still take pretty heavy damage. So he does hit a couple of my head hurlers as he pushes through, but now he's flanked out on two sides. Polish Legion starts pushing forward here, but Biscuits has got him held. He's got enough infantry to hold him, and I've got my infantry there to support him. As you can see, all these guys just rout from the head hurlers because they just panicked, and they start routing completely. And I can use my head hurlers to help as infantry. They won't do very well, but they'll hold. So here we see Polish Legion pushing forward, trying to slice through him here. So I'm going to push my chariots up because their cav's coming in en masse. Now what Mo's going to do. It's pretty good. It's a good move. He's going to try and use his pikemen to block me, because chariots move slower obviously than calves, so I have to, if he's fast enough he might be able to block me and they'll be able to destroy biscuits. So I'm going to keep using my head hurlers and just keep firing head hurlers into the flank here. It's doing good damage. I'm just gonna I move around a bit because you can see his pikes are there, but I'm gonna get in, and the chariots are still close enough to scare the opponent. As you can see, some of them are routing, and they all got frightened by chariots going on for most of them, and it'll cause a rout. And I'm gonna bring my guys in. I put a war cry down just to add to the scare effect. It all helps. And I send my other chariots, my light chariots, into the flank here. Again, the men are scared, so even light chariots are enough now, and even any kind of chariot puts the scare effect on. So as you can see, just those light chariots in the flank, it even routes several units. And with head hurlers coming in on the side, fire arrows coming in, and then a whole horde of chariots right in their flank, as you can see, it all comes in. The war cry, everything, and the amount of Roman support from Biscuits and all the Macedonian and Senate forces mass rout. So a really good game to us. But I honestly think they just really worked into our favour by not doing anything really except sitting still the entire fight. They needed to take advantage of the fact that there was an opportunity there at one stage to hit Biscuits quite hard, because his cavalry was over here with my chariots, which would have taken a while to get to the field. But as you can see, a pretty decisive victory for us, really. I'm an attacking player, and so is Biscuits. Both of us prefer to attack, and I do better when I attack, but I'm not saying that defence doesn't work. But there's two kinds of defence. There's the defence where you're reacting to everything your opponent's doing, and there's the defence where you're playing defensively but you're taking opportunities and trying to kind of mess with your opponent's attack pattern at the same time. That is the kind of defence you want to use. It's kind of like a flexible defence, or a elasticy defence, or it's a counteractive defence. You counteract what's coming at you. The reactive defence is in just about every situation a bad defence, because you're just doing what your opponent wants you to do, and that was what they spent most of this fight doing, and that allowed us to win. So I was pretty pleased with this result, because to be honest, Britannia is very, very difficult to win with in 31k unless you're a really experienced player, and particularly in a 2v2 it really is better employed, in my opinion, in a 4v4 where you've got plenty of allies to help you. But if it's like Germania, if you use it properly you'll get a mass rout, but unlike Germania it's a bit more difficult to get it to happen. But if you get those, look after your head hurlers, don't let them take too much missile fire, and you can make sure enemy archers are knocked down, then you should be fine. If you've got a Britannic ally, you need archers. There's certain factions like Britannia, Seleucids, Pontus, Germania. If those factions are your allies, you need archers to cover them, because otherwise they're going to get wasted. That is where archers are incredibly important in 31k. So, that's why Biscuits has his 3 archers. I had the 2 chariot archers. It was enough to make sure Mo's archers couldn't interfere. And when the time came, we still had all those head hurlers throwing heads in and massively shocking their morale. Combine that with chariots, war cry, and just the weight of all the Roman peeler and Roman infantry and Praetorian cav that Biscuits still had at that stage, and it got a mass rout for us. So he's got 1,650 kills, so very good on Biscuits. He took the front, he took the lead. It's his job. He did all the kind of footwork, the groundwork. I just did the support and scare work, if you will. I have 1,159, so I'm more than pleased with that. As you can see, my head hurlers actually got most of my kills, and my light chariots got by far the most, but my head hurlers got a lot of kills. The warlord chariots really didn't get very many kills. Usually they're the units that probably get the most kills, but they didn't really come in until later in the game, like with the very last moment, and that was enough to cause a mass rout. But honestly, the work had been pretty much done by the head hurlers and the Roman army of Biscuits, and of course our skirmishing units of both Archer Auxilia and the British light chariots. So again though, I really enjoyed that one. I'll link Biscuits and Polish Legion's channel in the description. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Please leave comments, tell me what you think. Be sure to check those guys' channels out, they will appreciate it. And please leave comments, guys. I love reading comments and getting feedback on my videos. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you soon next time.